When you think of this era of Phillies baseball, you think home runs, you think mashing hits, and you think bedlam at the bank. However, the identity of this team has begun to shift into a little more pitching base as they look to extend this championship window. With that said, do they still have competition for the best pitching staff in baseball? I want to talk about the latest reporter who's putting a little bit of disrespect, I feel, on this Phillies pitching staff as a whole and see how they stack up against the best pitching staffs in the league here. Now, before I dive fully into it, as always, do want to remind you guys to make sure you are smashing that subscribe button. That at this point in time, 68.1% of you guys have not subscribed to Phillies Digest just yet. It is almost the regular season. It is almost time to take it up a notch, and it is almost time to have real baseball to discuss and break down. So cannot wait for that to be the case there and want as many of you as possible on board for the journey this season. Now, before I dive fully deeper into the topic regarding this pitching staff here, do want to discuss a little bit of a word from our sponsor and be right back to the action. We are kicking off a March Madness pool for the channel by partnering with the Hot Takes app and other Digest channels for this event. It is completely free to sign up. Just download the Hot Takes app, click the March Madness banner at the top, and under group select the Digest Media Pool. This is really exciting as there's over $25,000 in prizes to be won, and since there's a much smaller pool of people participating, there's a real chance in winning big compared to other bracket challenges out there. Check out the link below or scan the QR code to download the app, and make sure to use promo code DIGEST in all caps to get exclusive perks when signing on. Again, this is completely free, and if you have any issues whatsoever, just use the email down below. We are excited to see you in this March Madness pool. Now let's get into the topic of the video today. So yes, to tide you over until baseball actually begins, make sure to get involved in that March Madness competition that we got running over here on Digest Media. We'll be taking part in that myself, so make sure you get ready to sign and compete against me. Now, to dive into the topic of today, first I want to start out with this headline. Shout out to, it is Dylan Sanders writing this up that says, Philadelphia Phillies pitching staff still considered behind star-studded Dodgers, with the headline, the secondary headline here saying, the Philadelphia Phillies elite pitching staff was not able to overcome the Los Angeles Dodgers in the latest staff rankings. And to give a little bit of a window into what they said, they write, it must be difficult to have a starting rotation that goes 5 deep with potential Cy Young candidates and not be considered the best in the MLB, but that is the reality that the Philadelphia Phillies are living right now. MLB.com's Anthony Cantrovice, I believe is how you say that, recently released a rankings of his top 10 pitching staffs in baseball. The Phillies finished in second place behind, unsurprisingly, the Los Angeles Dodgers. The Dodgers already had Shohei Ohtani, Tyler Glasnow, Yoshiro Yamamoto, and adding to the likes of Roki Sasaki, Blake Snell, and Tanner Scott makes it almost unfair. Philadelphia did get its due, however, as it would be a huge shock for them to end up with the league's best rotation by year's end. Quote, they don't have a crazy amount of depth that Los Angeles possesses, but pound for pound, a healthy Philly staff could outpitch the Dodgers and anyone else. Now, I'm not going to be the guy to put my foot down and say if you want to go measure guy by guy that the Phillies should 100% be the best pitching staff in baseball. I get what the Dodgers have done. I understand the money they've invested and the big names that they attract there. Shohei Ohtani, we'll be curious to see how much he actually pitches, not just this year, but really moving forward in his career. We understand how unbelievable he is at the plate and being in the field, and obviously makes him really unique, the ability that he still possesses on the mound. But even as great as he is, I don't think he probably cracks their top 5 starters, and that says way more about the depth that they have than anything about Ohtani's abilities there. Now, with all that being said as well, you can only pitch one pitcher at a time, man, and that is why I like this Philly squad. Is each of these guys, I believe, can dig in, get the job done, and when the moment is at their largest, they can rise to the occasion. With this Dodgers team, truthfully, we haven't seen it with a lot of these guys, and injuries/availability is the biggest red flag that they have. While this pitching staff continues to be on paper so dominant there, on paper doesn't win you championships, and that's sort of been the effects of the Dodgers in the past few years, that their top guys have not been available for the postseason or in those largest moments due to injuries taking them off the field. Now, we never wish injuries on anyone, and obviously hope for better for them this season, but that is the reality, that is the track record, and that's something that we have to acknowledge when making these type of rankings. Now, to dive a little bit deeper into it, do want to continue on with the article here that states, Philadelphia has a star-studded rotation of their own in Zack Wheeler, Aaron Nola, Christopher Sanchez, Ranger Suarez, and Jesus Luzardo. Wheeler and Nola are undoubtedly one of the best 1-2 punches in all of baseball. They've been pitching at an elite level for a long time. Even Suarez had his own Cy Young campaign for a while last year before the wheels started to fall off down the stretch. The X factor that could push this group to the next level are Sanchez and Luzardo. And those are the interesting guys there. As far as Luzardo as a whole, I will say, I don't want to say I'm skeptical because that's a little bit strong. I don't know if I'm buying back into this dominant season coming the way I see a lot of people and my co-host on this channel, Luke Arcani, very clearly buying into. I hope I'm wrong. I want to like the guy and we'll be rooting for him, obviously, but just kind of address what we're looking at from Luzardo's situation. For last season, it was a bad year that he pitched in 12 games, just 66.2 innings, allowed 9 home runs over that time, 58 strikeouts and 61 hits allowed. He is still 27 years old and has plenty of time to turn it around, but we got to look at what's in front of us. And frankly, I haven't been blown away by what I've seen from him in spring training. So ultimately, I will be judging the actual pitching ability when the regular season starts with a far more, I guess, close eye or under the magnifying glass a little firmer here. And if that is what we're complaining about, the likely 5th starter on this team, we're probably in a pretty good space on the Phillies as a whole, but just something to note there. Now, Ranger Suarez as a whole, it's going to break my heart when this dude signs somewhere else in the offseason because that does seem to be the way that things are trending. And with the future of Andrew Painter very clearly in mind here, that's another kind of factor that wasn't fully acknowledged, I believe, in this article. There's a real world where Andrew Painter is one of the top 3 pitchers on this pitching staff by the end of the season. That is not crazy to say. I don't think it probably happens, but I'm not ruling it out at this point. And everyone in the Phillies organization continues to rave about the potential of this kid, how good he truly can be. Not just like the best pitcher on the Phillies staff, but one of the best pitchers in baseball when he fully reaches his peak there. Now, he's still incredibly young. We are far ways away from that, but I do think that was something to note as well. Now, to continue on a little bit with this article here, it writes, Sanchez has looked like his game has gone to the next level this spring, with his sinking fastballs eclipsing 97 regularly almost out of nowhere. It was averaging 92.1 miles per hour 2 years ago and 94.5 last season. If he can keep that going into next year, he will be dangerous for opposing batters. Luzardo was the big offseason acquisition, bringing him over from the Miami Marlins. His career has sort of been derailed by injuries as of late, but his potential is sky high. Now, Christopher Sanchez, that is a guy I can buy on and get behind. I loved what I saw from him last year. By my money's worth, that was the biggest story of the season surrounding this Phillies team, was his emergence, his reliability, and really pitching like a top end of the rotation guy from start to finish over the entire season. That was not something that I expected. I've always had sort of a fondness for Christopher Sanchez, but that was more one of those I just liked the guy, not a genuine belief in his talent, the way that he absolutely blossomed into last year. Now, to wrap this article up, the last part of it here says, moving over to the bullpen, their key relievers are highlighted as Jordan Romano, Matt Strahm, Orion Kirkring, Jose Alvarado, and Tanner Banks. Romano is another X factor that could reestablish himself as one of baseball's best closers. Between 2020 and 2023, he had a 2.29 ERA with an ERA plus of 184. He had 3 straight years of at least 245 or 248 ERA plus. Wow. He pitched just 13.2 innings last year due to injury, though, and gave up 10 runs. The Toronto Blue Jays non-tendered him, and now he's with the Phillies in hopes of resurrecting his career. The Philadelphia bullpen underperformed last year and could be the key to pushing this entire team to the next level if they are able to live up to expectation there. And that, to me, is probably the more, I guess, legitimate complaint regarding this Phillies team. I'm still not sold on the bullpen, and that is something that I think as we look forward to the trade deadline that they are going to have to address. That I think you're going to have to find another version of Carlos Estevez, hopefully a guy a little bit notch higher in my mind there, although Estevez was pretty fine for what they needed him to do in the most part. It was not his full fault that his bullpen fell apart. And in reality, when we're talking about the guys that did come up small in that postseason setting, we are talking about the big dogs that performed all season, that being primarily Jeff Hoffman and Matt Strahm there. That is when things fell apart in the postseason there and really disappointed. Now, Strahm himself dealing with a little bit of a shoulder injury. On the bright side, I'm happy that this is getting out of the way now, that injuries are going to happen over the ebbs and flow of the season, and I'd rather them take care of it, be super cautious about it in the short term now to take the long-term benefits for the larger part of the season. Jeff Hoffman, really interesting stuff there, and essentially he's basically switched spots with Jordan Romano. Both guys with some pretty significant red flags on their medical standpoint there. Now, granted, the Phillies are buying in that they believe Romano can have this comeback season. I was a little skeptical on the Jeff Hoffman. I loved what he brought to this organization last year. When we started to see the reports of other organizations running away because of his medical situation, that gave me enough pause to be like, okay, Dave Dombrowski, maybe you know what you're doing letting this guy walk away. And particularly with bullpen pitchers, you see these get these random years where things just click, they're red hot, and they're pitching like one of the best pitchers in baseball. We got that with Jeff Hoffman last year, and I think there is a real chance that that was a splash in the pan. We got his best performance, and he cannot return to that. The bullpen will be a conversation that we have bookmarked for another day, but to circle it back to this starting rotation with this Phillies team, do got to highlight the guys at the top because I do think that they fly under the radar to an extent. That Aaron Nola and Zack Wheeler are two of the best pitchers in baseball, period. And they don't get acknowledged the likes of some of these other guys. They quietly go about their business, handle their job, take care of things, and deserve the flowers as a result. Aaron Nola last season pitched in 33 games, 199.1 innings, 197 strikeouts, almost one per inning there, 189 hits allowed, just 30 home runs. That is 8.5 hits per 9 inning, a 3.57 ERA, and a 1.199 whip there. And to talk about Zack Wheeler, the stud that he is, 32 games, a 696 win percentage, pitched 200 innings exactly, allowed just 20 home runs, had 224 strikeouts, and 139 hits allowed. That is just 6.3 hits per 9 innings, 2.57 ERA, and a .955 whip there. It would not shock me if this is the year that Zack Wheeler finally wins his Cy Young. Frankly, I think it would be criminal if this guy goes the entire length of his career and does not get crowned with one of those. I do hope that changes. But Wheeler, once again, is a guy that just goes about his business, handles things. That these are not the guys that get these big ticket, primetime games that they're boosted up. They're not Shohei Ohtani. They're not Roki Sasaki. They're not these guys that the MLB seem to be pushing at this high rate there. But what they are damn good pitchers. Guys that are going to perform on an every game basis, deliver for this Phillies team. And that's what I'm about. That's what these guys are about. And I love that they continue to put on here. So shout out to both those guys. Aaron Nola, of course, the homegrown player that he is, and Zack Wheeler, of course, the pleasure of stealing him from the New York Mets and him playing his best baseball in a Phillies uniform feels pretty sweet as well. So when factoring the entirety of this Phillies rotation, that of course there's Wheeler, of course there's Nola, of course there's Christopher Sanchez, Ranger Suarez, who I still think is underrated on the larger scale from a lot of national perceptions of him, Luzardo, sort of the X factor there, and we haven't even brought up the Andrew Painter conversation. So we will see how that all fits together. Also, shout out to Taijuan Walker, who's pitching better and trying. I don't have this strong belief in a Taijuan Walker comeback story, but I put it out there again. It's going to be a guy I'm rooting for every time that he is on the mound, and I do hope he can find some sort of footing in his career, even if it's not in Philadelphia for the remainder of things. But to this Phillies pitching staff here, it is time to step up and deliver this season. I do think that the calling card of this team is shifting into pitching being the identity, and I don't think there is anything wrong with that there. So we'll see how things shake out moving forward, but there is a strong case to be made, and frankly, I think it's the right one, that this is the best pitching that the Phillies had during this win now era. Around the Bryce Harper era, from top to bottom, this is the best pitching staff that they've had, and that is a reason for belief that things could change at the conclusion of this season. Now, until we get there, do want you guys along for the ride every step of the way. So one more time, do want to remind you guys to make sure you are hitting that subscribe button if you have not already. 68.1% of you guys have not subscribed to the channel just yet. It is almost the regular season. I'm fired up about it and want you guys on board. So come join the Phillies Digest family. Drop those comments below. Drop a like on this video. And as always, I'll be talking with you next time. Peace.